Fire Call, the fire safety show, Division Chief Jim Sedaris.
Hi, my name is Division Chief Jim Sedaris, and you are watching Fire Call. And you like the new beginning? I sure did. It's the sixth year we've been shooting Fire Call. We've got tons of questions all the time, and it's because you're watching our show, giving us the feedback that we can make the show you want to watch. And if we use your questions, if we use those shout-outs, we will get you a sassy Sioux Falls Fire Rescue t-shirt, only available on Fire Call. So, before we get to the show, we got some shout-outs already. And this first shout-out is from Costa, and Costa wants a shout-out to New York Fire Department, Ladder 120, Engine 231, and Battalion 44. Second one's from Brian. Brian wants a shout-out to the Knoxville Fire Department in Knoxville, Tennessee. And last is from Matthew. Matthew wants a shout-out to the, Shenango Fire Department in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Now, what do we got going on the show? Let me tell you, we're doing some trench rescue. It's summertime. We're building roads. We're digging ditches. We have to worry about trench rescue, so you're going to meet some of the best firefighters for trench rescue anywhere. Then we're going to do Truck of the Month. Everyone wants to know about our fire trucks. Hey, we got a cool Tony Bivens to talk about Truck of the Month. Then we're going to talk about some deck safety. Everyone's going to be grilling. They're going to be eating chicken on the grill. Healthy for you. We got to know how to be safe on those decks and with those grills going. So we're going to talk to Inspector Dean Lanier. And then we're going to talk to new guy Phil. Phil is one of our new firefighters, and he's going to tell us his insights about what he did to get ready for the job. So, sit back, maybe have some popcorn, healthy of course, and watch the show. I'm with Captain Travis Tom, and Travis is one of our elite USAR firefighters, and Travis oversees the USAR team for the trench collapse class, and that's what we're doing out here, right, Trav?
That's right, Jim.
Hold on the enthusiasm, Trav. Now, when we look at trench collapse, people say, well, how often is that going to happen? When would it even happen? What kind of events would trigger a trench collapse?
Well, anytime we have any excavations that aren't following any following the OSHA compliance, you could have the potential for a excavation collapse.
In a city our size, do we have a lot of trenches going on?
Yeah, during the summertime, you can drive virtually through any section of the city, and you'll see excavations in a lot of places. So
what can happen then is when these trench collapses, does the side fall in, or do they just slide in from the bottom, or can it be either or?
Yeah, it's a multiple of different collapses can happen. It's just going to depend on what soils they're in and the weight of the soil and what we call shears.
Now, when we think about this, okay, we're working together, and the trench starts to collapse, and you're trapped. I jump out. I'm faster. What should I do then? Should I crawl back in and start shoveling you out? What should a construction guy be doing when there is a trench collapse?
Well, if you're involved in an excavation collapse, the best thing you can do is shut off all the machinery around the hole.
Why is that?
The vibrations from running engines it can cause a secondary collapse. And the next thing is to call 911. The sooner we can get there, the sooner we can put the proper shoring or the proper safety measures into the excavation trench and safely remove the patient.
So when we call 911, we have crews that are specially trained with all the equipment that we see here to do this kind of rescue. How often are the crews trained?
Oh, well, it's going to depend on the individual crews, but we try to get out yearly in actually the excavation holes, but year-long in station.
So walk us through now. We have a trench collapse. We get up there, it's freshly collapsed. What are the things that are going to fall into place? What are the names of some of the equipment, and when are they put into place as far as when we start this operation?
What we call? Well, some of the first things that we're going to do is put ladders into the hole and put down what we call ground pads, which all it is distributing your weight across the ground versus through 2 feet through a piece of plywood. Mm-hmm. And the next thing we'll do is actually take atmospheric monitor readings before we go into a hole.
Okay, now people are going to say, what is that and why do you use it?
It's a fancy device that we stick into the hole to make sure that there isn't anything in there that gas-wise that's going to
So you could
hurt
have
us or harm us.
methane gas. You could have any number of
Could
things.
have a flammable liquid gas such as propane or natural gas. Could have electrical hazards.
Okay.
Or you could have methane gas, or maybe you have a CO problem.
Okay. And now the air's okay. You got the ground pads out. What's the next step?
And the next step, what we'll do is actually ventilate if we need. Ventilation.
Pump fresh air in.
Yeah, if we have an atmospheric reading that we don't like, what we'll have to do is give it air and put fresh air into the hole or the trench to get the air in it that we want. And then what we'll do is actually use what we call strong backs, just a fancy name for a piece of plywood.
Okay.
And we put these strong backs in with a 2x12 on them, and we shoot.
And they're all attached, and when you have these already on the truck, so they'll just slide out. And
yeah,
get there.
A strong back's actually a piece of plywood with a 2x12 on it, with the corners cut so they don't get stuck in the dirt.
Okay.
And then we use pneumatic struts.
And so they're going to be air-powered struts, and what are they used for?
The pneumatic struts?
Correct.
The pneumatic struts are used to take the weight from one strong back and distribute it through the trench and divert it back onto the other side of the trench.
Okay. And then you'll put a number of those in to secure that trench?
The trench depth is going to depend on how many struts we need.
What's the normal depth of a trench? How deep can trenches be?
Well, they could be, 20, 30 foot, but
Really?
usually what happens is most excavators will do what they call step backs in those deep, and they make it a hole versus a trench.
Okay.
Make it wider than it is deeper.
Now, when do we start putting people in the hole to start working and actually help either stabilize that person or remove that person?
We'll get a patient, or we'll get someone down to the patient as soon as we deem it safe, which usually means it isn't fast enough for whoever's on site, but they've had one accident already and we don't need two. So what we need to do is take the proper precautions and put the proper safety measures into effect to safely extricate the patient.
Now, we're very fortunate. We have all the pneumatic struts. What do we have to do before we have pneumatic struts?
Oh, and we still do. If a trench is too wide or if a trench is too short, what we have to go to is wood. Spruce, pine, fir wood usually is what we can find around here. We do carry 4x6 and 8x8 wood, which is a little bit harder to find in your lumber yard, but we can use 4x4, and we use 2x4s and 2x6s.
And you carry that with you too?
We carry a small amount of that. It's a lot faster to use the pneumatic struts for us.
And then when you get on scene and if you have to use wood, do you have all the tools inside that you can start, like chop saws, to start cutting this wood to fit?
Yeah, what we've got on board with us is probably about 2 hours operation.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, to keep us busy for about 2 hours. Anything greater than that, we're going to rely on either someone grabbing our lumber cart, which is out here at the training center, or a lumber yard.
And the crews that you have, you start rotating through. Now, when you get a new firefighter in, how do you integrate them to learn about trench rescue? Is it pretty much in the books and hands-on?
Well, in our city, they're not allowed by policy to be stationed at a station without the certifications prior to. So they have to go through about a 2-year training program and take the right amount of courses before they're allowed to be stationed at the station. But we can have rovers, fill-ins, come into the station that don't have the certifications.
I'm really glad we got you running this program, Travis, because you do a heck of a job. And when these calls happen, it's not it's something that those skills have to be in place, ready to go, and it looks like the crews are doing a great job, and that's a credit to you.
Thanks, Jim.
We just hired 8 firefighters, and we have one of our new firefighters, Phil Paskowitz, right?
Yep.
But the name looks different than it sounds, but hey, Phil, we're glad you're on board.
Thank you.
Now, you're from Minnesota, right?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. You went to school.
I went to school in Duluth, Lake Superior College, to get my fire science degree.
Okay.
And then I also was in paramedic school in Minneapolis, which I didn't finish because I had 2 months left and I came here.
Good move.
Yep.
Good move. Now, you've been around the block. What do you think of Sioux Falls so far?
I love it so far.
And
Yeah.
Find a place to live?
Yep. I live with another firefighter right now,
That's a recipe for disaster. Who are you living with?
Chris Skoglin.
Oh, jeez. Okay, well, that's another story at another time. You'll meet Chris later. Now, tell me, when we have a lot of people that want to know what to do to be a firefighter. Now, being that you're one of our newest hires, you went through the whole testing process, what are some of the things that you did, or what would you recommend doing if someone wants to get hired on Sioux Falls Fire Rescue?
Well, things that I did is I bought the fire exam books, did as many questions and as many of those as I could, but also just any test you could take. I mean, any city, you may not like the city, but just taking any test to get involved in the process, maybe practice your interviews, just practice doing other questions just to get an idea of how everything goes. I mean, going into it initially, it's kind of hard just to not know what to expect, but once you kind of get a feel for it, it helps out a lot.
We had CPAT, physical agility test. What did you do to prepare for that?
Things that I did is just tried to mock the CPAT as close as I could. You didn't always have all the stuff that they used, but you looked at in the weight room what kind of things, what muscles you used in the same type of exercises during the CPAT. So stair climbs, I found tall buildings and I ran stairs, and just pretty much just simulated what type of exercise I needed to do and prepared that way.
Okay, now you got your first firehouse. You been any calls yet?
Yeah, I've been on quite a few lately.
EMS calls, fire calls?
A lot of EMS, a lot of fire alarms.
Okay, now, how's your crew treating you? We want to know. Now, we won't tell them, but how are they treating you?
They're treating me real good right now.
They've been feeding you well?
Yep, feeding me well.
They're taking care of you?
Yep.
Are you working out with them?
Yep, we work out together.
Are they going to put some meat on that frame of yours?
Yeah, let's hope so.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
It's hot, it's sunny, and everybody wants to be grilling. Well, for grill deck safety, I have no one better than Inspector Dean Lanier. Dean, you ready for the tough questions about deck safety?
All set.
Okay, now we got these, everyone's going to be out cooking. It's fun. It's grilling, chicken, sarsaparillas. Life is good, but we can have problems.
Yes, one of the problems you can have is basically from the operation of the grill, you can have issues with spilling grease or the items that are coming off the meat and materials that you have inside the grill fall onto your wooden deck and actually cause a fire as a result. So the best thing for you to do is, before you start up that grill, make sure you got the grease traps cleaned out. Make sure the areas that are going to be catching the flammable greases off of the food that you're cooking are areas that are open and are going to actually do the job as they're designed to do.
Now, we don't want to have kids left alone on the decks while we're cooking. Hot grill, they're going to want to grab it, potential for burns. What about smoking on decks? Because we just had a fire recently.
Yeah, smoking on decks is really probably not the best idea for especially single-family homes. It would be a better idea to have something that is absolutely non-combustible.
Tell us what that is, though.
Yeah, what is not non-combustible are things like potting soil. A lot of people believe that soil is non-combustible, but actually in potting soil and a couple other items that you use in gardening, you could put a cigarette in it, and it could smolder for several hours before it actually would finally kick off and start on fire.
We had that too recently.
Yeah, we've had several times in which that's happened. And another key area for smokers to think about is when they flick their cigarette butts, they can fall between the planks of the deck and actually sit there and smolder for several hours as well. They won't be put out because they're really not open to the wind, but they are getting enough airflow where if they sat there long enough, they could actually smolder for some period of time and actually catch the deck on fire.
Now, if it's your house and your deck, hey, that's one thing. But when you're talking about the apartment complexes, we have to clear out that whole apartment complex when we get deck fires. So it is something that people really need to take heed to.
Sure.
And listen to what you're telling them.
Absolutely. When you're living in an apartment and you have a deck that overhangs maybe 2 or 3 floors underneath it, it's probably not the best idea to go out on your deck and flick your cigarette butt onto somebody else's deck. We've had several times in which, smokers are out on their deck trying to dispense of the cigarette butt, and they end up just flicking it into the grass or onto somebody else's deck down below. And yes, it can sit there and smolder for hours.
Maybe a can of water, would you suggest?
A can of water would be best. It would be far better than potting soil or some other type of component that you would use for gardening. Water would be the best agent to use, but if you could buy an approved cigarette butt can, they usually have a neck on them that kind of constrict airflow into it, and there's no way you're going to be able to get anything to smolder for that long in a cigarette butt can that's approved.
Great. Well, Dean, thanks, and hopefully we're going to have a safe summer.
I do hope so too. All right, thanks.
Got a lot of questions about fire trucks, and we have the truck of the month, Engine 9. We got Tony Bibbins. Ready, Tony?
Yep.
Tony Bivens has been around for a long time. How long have you been a firefighter?
It'll be 2 years in September.
Oh, doesn't seem that long anymore, does it?
Nope, it's going fast.
Would you like it?
Yeah, I love it.
What did you do before this?
I actually worked for a lawn care company in Omaha, Nebraska, and I went to UNO to get my associates in fire protection and did my EMT, got a bachelor's in business management.
And then you got hired by Sioux Falls Fire Rescue,
Yep.
moved
Yep.
up here and loved it.
Yep.
And you're a darn good firefighter, and we like him. We like him so much, you're going to answer some questions about Engine 9. You ready?
All right, yeah, I'm ready.
Well, the first one is from Matthew. Matthew lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And he wants to know, why do you name your trucks differently, such as Engine 1, Engine 51, Truck 7, Rescue 8? Now this is Engine 9. Why do we name them differently?
Well, basically the different stations around the cities have engines, they have rescue trucks, and then they have just plain trucks. So when you designate a different number to each station in the city.
So this is Station 9,
Station
so everything
9.
here is going to be 9.
Right, and it's going to be Engine 9, and then we have your rescue, like Rescue 8. Those are going to be rescue trucks at a rescue station.
And then when we need a certain type of truck, we can call Metro Dispatch. We say we need a rescue truck, and they'll dispatch the closest rescue truck. So it seems a little confusing, but it's all really pretty simple once you know how it works. So now you're going to show us around Engine 9.
Yep.
Pride of the Southeast.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this doesn't have a ladder on it. This is a truly engine. So
Right.
when our engines, what do our engines have on them?
Okay, we're going to have 2 lengths of 200 feet of pre-connect hose here. That's going to be 1 3/4 inches.
Meaning it's pre-connected. As soon as you pull this, we can charge that, start fighting fire.
Right. Yep. And those are going to have combination nozzles on them, so you can either do a straight stream or a fog stream, depending upon what you need at each fire you go to. And then up top here, we're going to have our deck gun, and that's basically just going to be used for if we need water from the top of the truck into a building that we're obviously not going to make entry into.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have a life ring up there.
That's right.
What's the story?
Yep. Well, with just basically any kind of water rescue that would come in handy for the life ring. Just
And you have the river running right by your station here.
right. Yep. Yep. It's I'm sure it'll happen one of these days that we'll get a
Oh, it will.
water rescue.
Here's a question from Shane. Shane lives in Warminster, Pennsylvania, and he wants to know what's the difference between a pumper and an engine.
A pumper and an engine is basically the same thing. Just different departments are going to have different names for them, but initially they do the same thing.
So traditionally we call ours engines.
Yep.
You bet.
Yep.
Okay, Tony, we don't want to hold you up.
Okay. All right, we'll just have a peek in here.
And you have this whole truck memorized so that at any time you can get any piece of equipment, day or night.
Absolutely, yep. We're going to have our pick head axes here and our flathead axe. Pry bars, we're going to use this stuff mainly for forcible entry. We got cable cutters and bolt cutters in case we can't get into a spot we need to be into. And then this is actually going to be part of our monitor. And we're going to set this on the ground and hook our deck gun on top onto it so we can spray water into a building just from having ground control.
And then we can actually move our firefighters back and let that monitor sit there by itself.
Right. Yep. Yep. Okay, here, this funny looking thing, this is going to be for our foam. This is actually going to produce foam. When the foam comes out of the nozzle, it's going to help suppress a lot of the liquid vapor fires and things like that.
So it sucks air in as the water's going through it, helps
right.
create that foam blanket.
Yep. Okay, then that one didn't come out. We're going to have a couple of different fittings here, reducers, 2.5 into
Talk about the
1
boring
3/4.
nozzle. Everyone likes a boring nozzle.
The boring nozzle. Yeah, this is just going to be your old smooth bore nozzle is all that's going to be. Just real simple. You used to use it back in the day.
Whoa, wait a minute. Back in the day, I remember using that.
Do you? Well,
Yep, thanks, Tony.
Back in your day.
Yeah, it was a good career for you, all 2 years of it.
And right here we have our Halligan bar. And we're actually going to bring this into the fire with us with our flathead axe, and we call these the irons. This is basically going to be used for forcible entry in case we can't gain entry into the building that's on fire. We got another bar in there that's called a Hux bar, And again, that's going to be used for forcible entry, just different things that we use. We got our high-rise pack here. This is going to have, I believe, 150 feet of an 1 3/4 hose. And it's got a gated Y on it, so we can hook it to our standpipes and
so we can carry this up if we have to go up 10 floors.
Right.
Carry this up, then we have hose to battle that fire.
Yep. Yep. Okay, here just different little lockout and tag out things. Like I've used this for locking out gas meters at scenes, and we got a plug and dike kit here.
So lockout, tag out means when you lock it, then we know that's shut off. We don't have to worry about anybody potentially turning it back on without your permission.
Right. Yep. Okay. Okay, this is essentially where the driver's going to put his gear on engine 9 because we have kind of limited room where things can go. But we have just different gated Ys here, 5.5 inch and 2.5 inch adapters there. A couple of smaller ones. Okay, right here we got our ventilation fans, and this is going to help to blow smoke and heat out of the buildings to help the firefighters make entry. And
what's above the tarps?
Above the tarps, we are going to have our 5-inch hose here.
So you're going to hook that right to a hydrant?
That's right, yep.
And bring the line down?
2.5 inch supply lines here. That's where all our hose is going to be. Okay, we got a couple ladders here, backboards, pike poles for doing overhaul. We keep our PEDS board here, just in case a kid needs to be backboarded. A couple more ladders in here. Okay, we'll move on here.
Now we got a big EMS compartment. EMS makes up about almost 60% of our calls right now, and it's growing.
That's right, yep. Yep, we got our different bags here. This is going to be our O2, trauma, suction, mobilization, PEDS, and the biohazard bag. And basically, just like Jim said, all the EMS calls that we have, this will pretty much take care of what we do here. So, and then this is basically going to be for when we have fluid spills from accidents. We got our brooms here, our bags, and our shovels. That way we can clean up any fluids that we have. That way it's not going to be hazardous to anybody else. Okay, we got water here for the firefighters because it's starting to get pretty hot out there, and this will be nice to have.
People get dehydrated.
That's right, yep. We just got some water rescue equipment here, a couple of life jackets, utility hose, and just got a little portable water tank here for putting out small fires.
So you wear that on your back, and it has a pump,
yep,
like a backpack full of water.
Yep, yep, that's right. Okay, then we got... show you a couple of things inside the truck here. This is where all the firefighters' gear is going to be, air tanks and all that. And this is our thermal imaging camera. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. We're going to take this into fires, and it's going to help us locate different temperatures and heat and help locate victims that are on the ground and whatnot.
And you always got lights.
Yep, yep. We've got our flashlights and our AED here. We'll take those into a lot of EMS calls with us. This always comes in handy. I think that pretty much covers engine 9, though.
But Tony, I appreciate your
see?
help.
Yep.
Looks like you know your truck pretty well, and that's what we want.
Yep.
Well, have a good career, buddy.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
So what'd you think of the show? I had a great time. Love those trench rescue guys. Travis, one of the best captains we got, and Phil, I still can't say his last name without him telling me, but darn it, I think he's going to be a good firefighter. Hey, we got some last minute shout outs, so let's get to them. Adam, shout out to the Dexter Fire Department in Dexter, Missouri. Dylan wants a shout out to the Bloomingdale Fire Department in Kingsport, Tennessee. And I'm thinking it's Errol wants a shout out to the Brandon Fire Department in Brandon, South Dakota. Hey, they're just right next door. Of course, you get a shout out, get a t-shirt. We want you to be thinking about applying for Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. We're always looking for the best people. We want you to think about applying. Great place to work, and we're only looking for the best. Hope you like the show. And 6 years, where did it go? My name is Division Chief Jim Sedaris. You've been watching Fire Call.